Good morning, I'm Steve, W7QC, and today I'll be presenting a short demonstration of the NaP3 SDR software, and it will be I'll be showing it connected to my KX3. If I could ask you to please withhold questions until after the demo. Since I am an AVI file, I don't listen very well and I don't think well on my feet. Be glad to answer questions afterwards. NaP3 is an SDR program, and it's along the lines of Power SDR, HBSDR, SDR Sharp, and so forth. It's currently being maintained and improved by Pete Connors, who's been around SDRs for a long time. Foxtrot 3, Norway, Victor Bravo. And the version that I'm presenting today is the latest beta version of the software. You can download it yourself. It's available on telepost.com. And Telepost is the company that sells LP PAN. And N8LP is the owner of the company, and he recommends NaP3 software. It works with several different radios, and it appears complex, but spend a few minutes with it and it's really quite simple to use. Simpler than Power SDR. It has fewer knobs on the software itself because it works with radios that actually have knobs. In this demo I have my KX3 hooked up to my computer. It's a very simple hookup. The KX3 has an IQ port on the side, and I plug that directly into my sound card using an 1/8 inch cable, and then there's a standard USB to serial cable between the radio and the computer for rig control. First I want to show you the configuration items, and there's a lot of things you can set, but not very many things that you need to set. Almost everything that I'm going to show you is default. This is the configuration screen, and you see a number of tabs across the top. First tab is the audio tab, and there's only a couple things that you have to set here, and that is the line input where you get the IQ signal. This goes into the line in on my computer sound card. And then you want to set the sampling rate of the sound card. In my case, mine will support 192 kilohertz, so I have it set to the highest level. But even the cheapest ones will support 4800, 48,000, 48 kilohertz, which is really quite adequate. Also, you want to set DC block. That helps clean up the signal from the IQ. And there's also an interesting button here, a button to configure the FunCube dongle. And what that means is that this software will work with the FunCube dongle, looks like. And maybe it will work with other dongles as well. And it supports dongles that work through the USB port. The right half of this screen is virtual audio cable. And nobody really knows what a virtual audio cable is, and I don't use it, and I probably don't have any need for it. The next tab is the rig tab. That's where you set up the radio and the baud rate and COM port that you're going to communicate with the radio. And you notice I've selected the K3. Even though the KX3 is available, I had problems getting everything to work in the KX3 mode. But I did get everything to work in the K3 mode, so I settled on that, and that's what I'm showing you today. I'm using COM9 and 38.4 baud rate. And over here, the IF frequency offset. Since the KX3 has no IF, and the K3 does have an IF, I have to set some offset so the frequency on the pan adapter will agree with the radio frequency. And I do that for all of the various modes, and the program reads these values as I switch modes. Display tab, a lot of stuff there, not much to set. You can fill the pan adapter. I've got that checked, and that's not default. And that's the only thing on this tab that I have changed. On the options tab, the only thing here that's important is you tell it what controls you want to see. The top controls are the controls up here at the top. The band controls are down near the bottom of the screen, and so forth. Mode controls, the filter, VFO, and SDR controls are all down here at the bottom. I just show everything. Not necessarily use everything, but I show everything. On the DSP tab, nothing here that you have to worry about. There's a calibrate button, and if you're getting images, you can cut down the images or make them disappear totally by clicking on calibrate. And what that does is it calibrates your DSP, calibrates the DSP, and eliminates those images. On the colors tab, you can virtually set the colors of any of the controls if you want to. Imagine you could end up with it looking pretty awful, but you can do it. And there's a skinning capability. Right now I'm showing you the default skin. The only one I have installed is the new default, and there are probably others available. If you go on the internet, you could probably find other skins that work with the program that people have created. And the keyboard tab allows you to use the computer keyboard to change frequency, band, filter, and mode. And the other thing that's important on the configuration window is the ability to export the database. And what they mean by database is the configuration items that you've just set. If you click on export database, it will save the values to a file. And you can use import database to import that file or any other file that contains the configuration items. There's a button on the lower left where you can reset everything to default values if you want to do that. There is a menu across the top, and I'll briefly tell you what the menu items do. You've seen configure. Run, if I click on that, of course it will start the program running, and then it changes to stop. There is an expand collapse menu item that allows you to expand or collapse the display, an NaP3 display. There is a macro menu item that allows you to set up macro commands to your radio. And for example, you could enter a command string which would, for example, tune the radio to 14.072, put it into the data mode, and select PSK. And if that command string were in there, all you'd have to do is click on the appropriate button or the corresponding button. The command string would be sent to the radio, and the radio would respond. I haven't taken the time to set up any macros, and there's a data text menu item, which is kind of interesting. If you're running a K3 or a KX3 and you click on data text, the decoded CW and RTTY and PSK will be shown in text in that window, and that's for the K3 and KX3 only. There is a record menu item that allows you to record the entire passband, and you can record it for as long as you want to, save it to a file, and then you can play back that file, and everything looks just exactly like it did when you were making the recording. There's an equalizer menu item which allows you to tailor the audio to fit your likings. There's both a 10-band or a 3-band equalizer, so you can emphasize different sections of the audio passband. The transverter window, if you have transverters connected to your radio, use this to configure the transverters, and supposedly NaP3 will be smart enough to add the transverter bands as well. And there's an extensive help capability built in. So if you have any questions or you want to know how things work, you just use the help capability. And for example, there's the information on the FunCube dongle right there in help. What I'm going to do now is click on Run in the top menu. And that starts NaP3 running. It will start in its console view. It reads the frequency and mode from the radio, and it displays the IF passband and the noise being received on the pan adapter. And it will be centered on the current radio frequency. There are a number of controls across the top. The first one shows the frequency of the main receiver in the radio. And next to that is the frequency of VFOB, or the sub-receiver of the radio. You can use the mouse wheel to do fine-tuning. You just roll the mouse wheel, it will tune up and down. And you can set the step size of the mouse wheel with this control. Right now it's set to 10 Hertz, but you can set it anywhere from 1 Hertz to 10 megahertz. So you can get around pretty fast just by rolling the mouse wheel. Underneath that is a control which allows you to set the FFT resolution. And supposedly the higher you go, the more accurate the display will be. I have mine somewhere in the middle, and I've really not noticed much difference between the highest value and the lowest value. It seems to be about the same. There's a pretty nice S-meter capability here. You can show S units directly, or you can show an LED S-meter, or you can show an edgewise S-meter. Unfortunately, with the KX3, this is not, the KX3 does not make available its own S-meter reading. So NaP3, in lieu of that, is trying to figure out what's the S-meter reading from the pan adapter, and it doesn't do a very good job of that. However, a subsequent firmware revision for the KX3, it will make the S-meter reading available, and you'll be able to see accurate S-meter readings up here. K3, by the way, does make that available. So that's one advantage the K3 would have. The display you're seeing here now is showing the pan adapter at the top and the waterfall at the bottom. And the frequency, radio frequency, is shown across the top and the bottom of the pan adapter. And the current radio frequency is this red line in the middle. It's also shown up here as 18.119. You're seeing signals on the left, those are CW signals. And signals on the right, the wide ones are sideband signals. And probably somewhere in here are some digital signals. I imagine that's a digital signal at 18.100. You can set the height of the pan adapter underneath the waterfall. There's a button that says average on it. If you hover over that button and roll the mouse wheel, the height of the pan adapter will change. And basically what that's doing is it's controlling the level of the line input. You can roll the mouse wheel over the peak button, and that will change the intensity of the waterfall display. So you can dial up something that you like. There is a width slider, and using the width slider you can look at a small part of the passband or all of the passband or all of the IF frequency that your sound card will deal with. That's 192 kilohertz, and that's 1 kilohertz. I usually like to leave it somewhere in the middle. And if you notice the red marks on the left and right, those are the frequency limits of the 17 meter band. So that's the lower, on the left hand side that's the lower limit, on the right hand side that's the upper limit. So I'm looking at all of the 17 meter band there. The average and peak button have functions of their own. Right now in the pan adapter we're looking at the average of the signals. We can look at the absolute signal by just clicking on the average button. So it toggles between absolute and average. And of course average is a lot easier to look at. And there's a way to persist the peak values by clicking on the peak button. As you can see, the signals will maintain and persist their peak. And I don't see much use for that. There is a button which toggles between fixed and free, and if it's set to free, that means that the passband is free to move about the center. And if you change that from free to fixed, then the frequency will move across the passband as shown here. There are many ways that you can change frequency. You can actually just click on a signal. You can grab the background and just drag it. You can use the mouse wheel to change the digits of the display. If I go up on the display, I can change each digit individually. I can use the mouse wheel itself to fine-tune. I can click the 0 beat button, and it will 0 beat the station, closest station, to the receiver frequency. I can type in a frequency. For example, let's go to WWV. There's WWV at 15 megahertz. I can click on a band. Let's go back to 17 meters. And there's a general coverage button, and you can put some presets in the general coverage. If you click on general coverage, there's our WWV. If I continue to click on it, now I'm getting some AM broadcast stations, local AM broadcast stations, and that's KVI.
to provide you with wisdom. NBC News Radio. To your frequencies of 2.5. It's a real statement. Get NaP3 Looks into Ukraine at the State Department.
Let's go back to 17 meters. You use the buttons near the bottom of the screen to change modes. And now we're in CW, we can go to any of the modes. And you can use the buttons below the modes to change the bandwidth of the radio. There are other controls. At the very bottom there's audio gain controls for the main receiver and for the sub receiver. There is an RF gain control, and there's a squelch control. Other radio buttons directly under the waterfall, you see the split, swap A and B, A frequency, A VFO into B VFO, and the 0 beat buttons. At the lower right of the screen, there are audio effects buttons that you can use. It has 2 noise blankers and 2 types of noise reduction functions. Next to that, you can choose the AGC setting you like, fast to slow. And right above that, you'll see the CPU usage. Now the CPU usage here is showing between 20 to 35 in that range. And the reason it's high, normally if I'm just running my normal programs, it's around 10%. But now I'm running the screen capture program. I'm running DX Labs, LP Bridge, Ham Radio Deluxe, NaP3, and the screen capture software. So that's why it's fairly high. Let's go down here. What you're looking at here, this view is called span fall. That means a span adapter at the top and the waterfall at the bottom. You can look at the pan adapter alone. You can look at the waterfall alone. You can look at a scope. Right now I'm just showing noise. You can show the span scope. And you can show the spectrum. This is the audio spectrum. And one other thing is something called a histogram. I'm not too sure what that is. It's pretty. Here we have WWV or KPH, not sure which. With the center mouse button, I can fine tune. As you can see, it's got a digital signal impressed almost immediately on top of it. Click the 0 beat button, and now I'm exactly tuned to that station's frequency.
Talk to you later, and you know you're one of the few folks that I talked to who are still using the 751 Alpha. So we'll see you later. W5LN, it's been my pleasure.
Okay, John, I'm sorry, I think I called you Larry. 3 Charlie 0. We came on 10 meters here a few days ago, and that kind of thing. It's got a 2-element quad-like antenna that's probably is the best for Europe, but it was up an easy 5 to 10 dB. Now it's not. So we put a transmit relay in there.
And that's about the end of the demo. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. Thank you for listening.